Welcome. Welcome back. This should be an interesting discussion. I want to talk about Infant Annihilator. Which is a band you may or may not have heard of. And if you haven't, I wouldn't blame you. And if you have, I'm sorry. This band is one of those cases where, similar to the video made on Darko, where this is a band that basically only exists on the internet. They're not a touring band. Again, similar to Darko, because their music is basically impossible to perform live, I think. Maybe, who knows, we'll see if they ever do anything live in future. But this band I discovered through another band. There seems to be, I'm not going to go into huge details about this band and that band and certain members, but I discovered a band called Black Tongue a few years ago, and I was like, ooh, this is very much my kind of thing. I'm into this. I believe a couple of members of that band formed Infant Annihilator. I basically completely forgot about Black Tongue, because Infant Annihilator, even though it was like a joke, I thought was way more impressive and way more extreme and fun and just berserk. Forgot to turn my light on. So, this band are one of the most ridiculous bands I've ever encountered, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. As you probably know about me, I do enjoy music that doesn't take itself very seriously. However, if a band's their whole thing is just, we make comedy music, and that's it, I'm going to lose interest very quickly. A couple of bands I've covered who do incorporate a lot of comedy into their music is Mindless Self-Indulgence, and Electric Callboy.
Shaky, shaky, sweaty, sweaty, you make my spaghetti ready.
The problem I have with comedy music is, a joke is only funny for so long. Once you get over the humour, there has to be something more, for me at least, there has to be something else that I can latch onto once I get over the joke, With Mindless Self-Indulgence and Electric Callboy, yes, there's humour in their music, but the music itself is so interesting and so good and heavy and entertaining without the humour that once the comedy wears off, I'm still invested. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, there's certain bands that the depth of them is, we are funny, and that's it. I just get bored, like, as soon as I hear one song, I'm like, ha 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 ha. Okay, now what? And so this band is a perfect example of it being funny, but really keeping me engaged, despite the fact that I'm over the funniness, It definitely does still make me laugh. Again, similar with Darko, it's so heavy that it makes me laugh, because it's just so so unnecessarily heavy. You can make any music you wanted to, but you decided to make this. And, credit to these guys for being able to make this kind of music. This music is so super technical. I think even people that don't find it funny because they have no sense of humor will still be able to acknowledge the technical ability that these guys have. It's like the perfect comedy music as far as I'm concerned. Music for me doesn't have to be super technical or like crazy guitar solos or just showing off, essentially. And I don't need that in music. In fact, a lot of the time it puts me off. I wouldn't say I prefer music that is simple. I don't know. I don't find myself listening to Dragon Force, for example, or Dream Theater. Like, it's very impressive. Absolutely, technically amazing. But does it keep me coming back and interesting? No, not really. But this is... it's so heavy. It's so absurdly heavy that it very much keeps me engaged. So, Infant Annihilator are from the UK, and they're from Hull in Yorkshire. They're from up north, from where I'm from. The current members are Aaron Kitcher, Eddie Pickard, and Dickie Allen. And these guys have been active as Infant Annihilator since 2012. So quite a while now. And they only have 3 albums, which, granted that large amount of time, isn't very many albums. But I will acknowledge that to make one of their albums requires a lot of time, I think. And a lot of takes, and a lot of precision to get it right. Because this stuff's crazy, man. As the title of this video would imply, they are going for the most edgy, offensive, like blue humour in music that I've ever witnessed. It kind of reminds me of what me and a friend of mine were doing in the mid 2000s. I'll put a couple of examples here, but volume warning up front.
Your mother is a rampant cat.
So these guys, they started off pretty young, as you can see in this music video. The technical ability they had at such a young age is undeniably incredibly impressive. Again, that doesn't mean the world to me, but I have to acknowledge when someone's that young and can play an instrument and do vocals that insane at that age is very impressive. So, as I mentioned, they have 3 albums, being the Palpable Leprosy of Pollution in 2012, the Elysian Grandival Galeriarch, I think, in 2016, and the Battle of Yaldabaoth, again, I think, in 2019. The Palpable Leprosy of Pollution, as a debut album, is ridiculous. Pickard and Kitcher wrote and created homemade recordings together using recording software on Pickard's computer. They wrote, recorded and edited the instrumental tracks for the debut album, The Palpable Leprosy of Pollution, abbreviated to the Plop. The Plop. I've been listening to this album for years. I never made that. The Plop. Oh, that totally broke my flow there. Shit. So they recorded a debut album called The Plop. Basically, it seemed like it was just released online and like went viral because it was so extremely impressive and very funny at the same time. It was released on December 12th, 2012. So 12 of 12 of 12. Even for you Americans, that's still the same. The Elysian Grandival Galeriarch. What the fuck, man? That was, as I said, in 2016. I think this is the one I've listened to the most. I've listened to all of their albums many, many times. Each is like the same thing over and over again. They start off completely extreme and overboard and ridiculous, and they just continue doing that throughout their entire discography. I can't really say which album's the better one, because they're all good. They start off really strong and then just continue really strong. It's really hard for me to really say if one album's better than the other, because in reality they're all excellent. So, Infant Annihilator's musical style has been described as both deathcore and technical death metal. Their lyrical content is intentionally extreme and covers controversial topics such as I don't think I can say these on YouTube. Yeah, I definitely can't say... Okay, to give you an idea. In September 2017, their music was deemed too offensive and was pulled from Spotify and iTunes. They were both returned to both platforms after 3 days. Huh? Either stick to your guns or shut the fuck up. Okay, well, yeah, another thing about this... this fucking band is, again, the same with the topics that they cover. I cannot, I'm sure I cannot, I'm not even going to bother risking it, list some of these track names, because it will probably get my channel nuked, and I don't want that. So I'm going to put some screenshots briefly, and probably move them around so that YouTube doesn't pick up on any words. So get the pause button ready now, and I'm going to put them on screen now. If you're not into edgy humor, you're gonna find these very... I mean, boomers are not gonna get this at all. But I must confess, a bit of an edgelord. I like an edgy joke now and again. I do find things funny that are just trying to be offensive. I always have, and I think at this point, at the age that I am, I think I always will. It's just funny. It's funny to be offensive. Is that not the trend anymore? I don't know. I don't care. I think it's funny, and the fact of the matter is, these guys, I believe there's got to be 10 years difference between Infant Annihilator, the members of Infant Annihilator, and myself. But like I said, me and a friend of mine were making music similar to this in tone, and definitely in like lyrical themes 15 years ago. No. Oh god, Jesus, I'm old. 20 years ago, at least. You know, some might say, oh, it's such millennial humor. Well, they're not millennials. They've got to be, like I say, at least 10 years younger than me. And so, for us to both find it funny to make jokes about things that I can't even mention on YouTube, it's like a cross-generational thing, and I like that. I like that very much. Artists they have taken inspiration from include Carnifex, who I don't know, must confess, Bring Me the Horizon, obviously the older deathcore stuff, System of a Down, Slipknot, Chimera, Despised Icon, Thy Art Is Murder, Black Dahlia Murder, Beneath the Massacre, Cattle Decapitation, Waking the Cadaver, and GG Allin. Now, GG Allin, of all of those together make sense. GG Allin, I think, is the outlier in that, in a sense, because I don't honestly consider him a musician, really. I see him as like an edgy meme lord before the internet existed. And he's, sadly, not with us anymore. And if you don't know who GG Allin is...
And what do you do at your concerts?
I do whatever it takes. If somebody's in my way, I'll take them out.
Okay, but the audience is sitting out here, and you're up on stage. What do you do on stage?
Grab a girl and force her to perform oral sex with me. I've had sex on stage with men, women, and animals. If you get raped at my show, you're probably better off for it.
Tickets are only $12.50.
So yeah, I was immediately on board with Infant Annihilator. I think they're so much fun. Sort of like with Darko, I'm like, okay, this is the new update of how extreme and heavy metal can become. But I didn't feel like I was impressed. I was really impressed, and I kept listening to their music all the time. You know, new things came along, and I kind of put them on the back burner, but I didn't forget about them or anything. Then Darko came along, and I'm like, okay, it's not much of a step up, but it is still a step up in terms of just sheer heaviness. Because it's a different kind of heaviness. Like, Darko's music is not as technical as Infant Annihilator, but it is, in my opinion, and what I find heavy, it is definitely heavier, but only just. You could put these next to each other and consider them equally as heavy, and I wouldn't see that as being weird. I've kind of just realised that if you turn all their album names, if you just go by the acronyms of what their album titles are, it's Plop Egg Boy. I don't know if you're supposed to do that. I don't know if that means something. I suspect it doesn't. I suspect it's just being ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous. And if that's the case, I like that. This kind of humour is, as I said, I've gone into Electric Callboy, and I do like their humour, but it's much more general kind of humour, and I'm a little bit more on the edgier side of humour. That's my preference. In terms of comedy, which I don't think people will get a lot of the time with this band, I much prefer the humour in this band. You have to dig a little bit deeper. It's not quite as in your face. I mean, the music videos are, of course, in your face with the humour. But if you just listen to the music, you wouldn't be blamed for not seeing the humour in it, because it is incredibly technical, and this is what I meant. It's very impressive technical music, and so you could just go, wow, this is crazy heavy band, this is insane, without knowing there's any humour in there. And I like that subtlety, and then when you just dig beneath the surface a little bit, you're like, oh my god, what the hell? You read the song names, I mean, the name, the band name should give it away. Infant Annihilator? As soon as I saw that name, I'm like, that can't be a serious band. Like, Cattle Decapitation, for example, which I'm yet to cover on this channel, but I will do at some point, so bear with me. That is almost meme-worthy, but not as brazen as Infant Annihilator, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know how much more I can go into this band, because the band itself is very to the point, consistent with all of the music they've released up until this point. And from reading on Wikipedia, apparently there is some new album in the works. I'm looking forward to that whenever it comes around. But I felt like I had to address this band. Of late, you may have noticed, I've been covering music that is a little less heavy than I usually do. In terms of metal, and you know, because I don't want to be pigeonholed, and I thought covering this band would remedy that for anyone that's like, why is he just talking about non-grindcore or deathcore or whatever. So I hope you've enjoyed this little exploration into this band. As I have said in previous videos, if you have discovered this band through this video, do let me know, because once again, I'd be very curious to know that I've passed on this music to some poor bastard. I wish there was more to talk about with this band, but there really isn't. There's no, you know, controversy or anything yet. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new here, welcome. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much. Yeah, I still haven't thought of how to end videos yet. Would you believe that? So I'm just gonna say, go away.